Hello my friends, and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be telling you about some spooky reads, in case horror is just not your thing, but you really want to get into the Halloween spirit and enjoy some spookiness without truly terrifying yourself. Let's get started. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you may be aware that horror is not my favorite genre. However, I have recommended one horror book in the past because it was a indie published book and I was very slightly acquainted with the author and I read it and I really liked it, and I like promoting good indie books. But I know there are a lot of other people out there who don't particularly like horror for various reasons. Scaring themselves just isn't their favorite thing. But maybe because it's the spooky season, they're thinking it might be alright to just try it a bit, just for Halloween, just for October. Or you might be thinking you'd like to get into some dark sort of things, but that aren't really in the horror genre. If that's what you're sort of feeling, then this is a video for you. I have talked about at least all the authors in this video, if not the specific books before. So if you want to know all about that author or all about their books in general, about these books in general, and sort of how they are in general, you should watch the videos about those books, which I'll provide below. But in this video I'm going to be talking specifically about how they are spooky or how they suit the Halloween season, how they're dark, and will help get you in the Halloween celebratory mood. We're going to start with this lovely, lovely book because it's a very nice one for dark sort of mood and creepy, but it doesn't have that. The stories might make you uneasy, but they most likely won't make you jump. Just fill you with the sort of unpleasant feelings that one tends to get reading or watching horror. However, you probably won't get bad dreams from these stories. This is a collection of 6 short stories by Leigh Bardugo, The Language of Thorns, Midnight Tales, and Dangerous Magic, which sounds like some good spooky tales, Midnight Tales and Dangerous Magic. Is my background going to fall down? The way that I think this is most suited for Halloween is that it is sort of a return to the darker sort of way that fairy tales, is that gonna go? Not yet anyway. It is a return to the sort of way that tales associated with the Brothers Grimm are thought of. You know, the versions of Cinderella where her sisters were chopping off bits of their feet, the ones where the prince rapes Sleeping Beauty instead of kissing her to wake her up, that sort of thing. Except these tales do tend to have a happy ending, if not in the way you suspect or you expect from the old ways the tales were told. These tales are neither the new happy-go-lucky Disney sort of fairy tales, but neither are they the original way that fairy tales were told, in that one lesson was usually being taught with the old tales, whereas usually a different sort of lesson is being portrayed in these, and in my opinion usually a better one. According to the author, there were times when she felt from these old tales that there just wasn't something quite right, such as with the Velveteen Rabbit, it didn't seem quite right, the concept of a thing coming alive when it was loved, or what was the other one, or in Hansel and Gretel when the children go back to their father even though he has not protected them from their evil stepmother. Those sorts of things disturbed the author, and so she wrote stories based upon those original tales that delve into those things that don't seem quite right and dig out what the problem might be and look in depth and find the truth. And so it is a very meaningful group of tales. It is also quite dark, looking at the truth of people and what they're like and how dark things can really be. Now this one I want to recommend because it actually inspired some of my Halloween themed art. It's called The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one by Amanda Lovelace, and it is a poetry collection. Obviously this has to do with witches and thus that is the theme surrounding Halloween, but it also goes deeper than that in that it It is a very dark poetry collection, a very angry poetry collection. It is all about what has been done to women over the ages and what is still being done to them by men, and the anger that that produces in us and how we ought to fight back. And it is an expression of anger and an expression of desire for change, taking power back, and that we women are powerful, and that when we band together we can save each other from these things. Also on the back it says, "Burn whoever tries to burn you," and that's a big attitude in the book, so very nice. Thirdly, we have something I have mentioned in a number of videos, Uprooted by Naomi Novik. It is a slightly dark fairy tale. It is an original fairy tale. It is about a dark wood that puts out its tendrils physically, but also darkness that infects the mind and infects people to make them do evil things, to make them further the wood's own ends, not necessarily with anyone being able to tell. Many people are secretly the agents of the wood, but the people around them are not aware. And so it is very creepy, but also very hopeful and uplifting. So if you would like to get into the darkness, but also have the light at the end of the tunnel and have quite a lot of good things, despite me, your little tip your little toe into dark literature. Then I want to bring up the horror collection that I was mentioning earlier, and it is, I don't have a physical copy, but it is Don't Look Away by William Dalphin, and I'll leave a link in the description. It is a collection of 35 short stories. I would even class them as flash fiction that are very good, tight little horror stories, like very urban myth type stuff, like evil people in the attic where you're babysitting, or an evil street where someone died and is haunted, things like that. And it made my skin crawl very much, but also the thing about it that makes it easy for someone whose favorite genre isn't horror is that they are very short stories, and so you can dip your toe in and then get back out of it, so you can complete them and then stop thinking about them a lot easier than if you started a full-length novel or even novella and had to stop because it was too scary. And you can take it in short doses very easily. And then lastly, we have parts of the Del Toro series. Now, most of the Del Toro series is not very creepy at all. There are bits that are scary or tense, but not creepy. But this last series, Dragons of Del Toro, there by Emily Rada, this last one, the entire series is quite creepy, but particularly the middle two, I would say, are the creepiest. Shadowgate and Isle of the Dead. This one has this rather horrible specter following around the main characters for almost the entire book, along with some very horrible, creepy people called the Masked Ones, which are very dreadful. Masked Ones, yes. Anyway, they are horrendously spooky. The mask thing is one Halloween-y thingy to start with, but then there is a dark secret about the Masked Ones that is rather horrible. The entire series, really, Dragons of Del Toro, is about dark, nasty sort of secrets. So, and then this one, Isle of the Dead, there's a rather large section that is a ghost story, and a very creepy ghost story. I have a hard time reading this. I had a very hard time the first time, but even now it's difficult to read. It's very, very spooky. So another one of those where you could sort of, it's not horror genre, but you could very much dip your toe into horror aspects, while the overall genre is something different, an adventure story. If you watch my videos, you know how I feel about Emily Rada. She has really, really excellent writing. And so, thank you so much for watching. I know this has been a short video, but I've been doing a lot of filming and not quite enough editing, so I need to get this up, filmed and up quickly. But I have gotten all my points across. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you try out some of these books if you're looking for that sort of read, and I will be seeing you in the next video. Bye!